Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I'm from Finding Value Finance. I'll be your host today. We've got Casper with us, or USELINK. You can find him over at YouTube. I think it's at USELINK for YouTube and on Twitter.
Yeah, USELINK
So thanks
IND.
for
Yeah,
coming. Yep,
yeah.
thanks for coming back on, Casper. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I actually think I think it is the 10th time I've been here, 9 or 10. So it's an anniversary, I guess. So
Yeah, I haven't been
close to.
counting. I know it's quite a bit, but
It's been
so
yeah.
I want to bring you on so we could take a look at the charts, see what you're looking at or what you're seeing, bounce it off what I'm seeing. I'm sure we're looking at the markets pretty similarly.
Yeah.
So, what are some sectors that you're seeing that kind of pique your interest right now?
I think one of the markets that is still pretty hated, but I think gold right now is showing some absolutely amazing signs here, especially Friday's price action and the weekly close was just, I think, one for the books. And also with that said, I think the miners, specifically the miners, are just, they have been kicked in the nuts for a long time now, and I think they're about to finally do, the moves that we see that they can do for a short period of time here. So yeah, but I do think I think gold have a very good probability of, confirming that we're not going below 2K once again. I know this is a big call, but that is really what I'm thinking has a very high probability here. So
So, when speaking of gold, speaking of maybe the precious metals complex and all that stuff, what gets you so excited about gold specifically? Is it the closing price on the weekly? Is it a break of a pattern? Like, what gets you so bullish at this time?
actually both. So if I can share my chart here, I can show you and yeah, I think can you see the chart here?
I see copper futures. Oh, there we go. Gold.
Now you see gold. Okay. So actually a bit of both, but I want to go back like what 45 years or so back to 1980 when we peaked last time. So this is, I like fractals, looking back, seeing are we seeing similar setups, what happened and all that good stuff. So if I can find my brush here, this was the peak back in 2000, excuse me, 1980. So 45 years ago we peaked, and then in the midst of the 2000, during 2008, you can see here again, we pierced that price and then we made that massive inverted head and shoulders. And then in 2009, we broke that level and then we rode into roughly 2K. And what I'm seeing here is actually more or less the same. If you look at the price action here from 2011, you can see here we had the price there, we came, we pierced it, and ever since we have made the exact more or less inverted head and shoulders right there. And actually, this weekly close, actually what happened this Friday was actually, if we zoom in here on the daily, is that we actually confirmed above that long-term neckline here, and it was actually within a very well-defined bull flag here, and we broke out Friday. So with that said, I think we are on the replica here of last time we saw this, we left the 1K mark for good. We went to 2K, and I think we're doing the exact same here. It's a good probability that we're doing the exact same thing here again as we speak. And as you know from technical analysis, you can measure, the depth of the cup to the height there. It's roughly $1,000, right? So we are 2K. That should give us 3K for this move here, with a big, stop, I think at 2,500-ish, and then that will be a big resistance. But ultimately, this pattern here should take us to 3K based on this alone. So yeah.
Do you think it's going to do it pretty quickly, or do you think it's going to be kind of a longer bull market where we kind of just grind on up? What's your opinions there?
I think initially, again, this is just a bit more of a wild guess, but last time here back in December last year, we had that big spike into the Monday open over there in Asia, and then we came all the way back. So I do think once we clear this, and actually we could see that in what's that, 3 hours time or so, we will see what happened again here. But I think the initial pop could be quite quite fast due to, you know, all the amount of shorts in the system and all that good stuff that needs to buy back. But once that is over, I think it will do somewhat similar as what we saw over here, which is actually, from a gold perspective, is kind of fast. You can see here, once we broke, this is also actually a similar fractal that I want to show you here. You can see here, same thing again. Also with that fourth touch, you know, we had that tiny bull flag below, just like we had over here. And then we, within 1 year, we basically went from 1300 to 2K. So I think we could see a move like this into, you know, 2400, 2500 maybe, and then we will have a pause before we, in my book, eventually we go higher. So I think, yeah, I think we're onto something here. As you know, especially more for silver than gold, but you know, a lot of the times we do nothing and then we do, you know, the entire move in no time. So I think we could be in for something quite big here, for gold. Finally, after 4 years of nothing. So
Yeah. So here's another question. Do you think gold's going to move up by itself? Because we've seen gold move up by itself in some market conditions. Or do you think it, like the whole commodity complex is going to go up with gold? Like we're going to see a weaker dollar and kind of everything floats up with it. I know this isn't directly related to gold. I'm just wondering, do you think it's the whole commodity complex that's going to go?
yeah, yes and no. With regarding to the dollar, I still think the dollar is somewhat relative strong, but I also think that if we get below, you know, 100, maybe 101, I think the dollar is in for a bigger move down. But for now, it's actually okay, strong-ish. I think what will drive it here this time around is actually the energy sector. Because if you look at oil, also coal looks quite good actually, and nat gas, I think, is about to bottom. We have maybe a bit more downside, but I think overall energy will come back again here, just like we saw in 2020, in 2021, where we saw, you know, energy go ballistic. I think we could be in a similar situation, especially for oil. Excuse me. We can look at that chart basically.
How about
I
we
think
stick with like silver and gold and
okay,
stuff, and we can do
sure,
oil shortly thereafter.
yeah, sure,
Just to
sure.
just to keep it all, because a lot of the precious metals people like watching the precious metal stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I
So
think it will
silver.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, silver. I think we want to go I want to show you something amazing here on the 3 month. This is also something that I posted um, on Twitter here. And as you can see, if we remove a lot of the clutter that I have here. So silver, this is the 3 month candlestick time frame. You can just see here, 24 is just a massive number on the quarterly time frame, and you have the exact same if you go to the 6 months time frame again. You have the basically 24 is just screaming, you know, to be broken. And when it does, especially on the quarterly closes, that is going to have a potential mega run here on the long time frames.
So yeah, gold generally leads everything, and then silver is just going to play a massive catch up, right? Is that your
Yeah,
opinion?
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Gold needs to show that this is the time, and when, you know, silver has confirmed that, it will run like it has done more or less every single time. You know, gold leads, silver will follow, but it will outperform heavily. So yeah, definitely. It's it is also, I think we have shown this pattern many times, so we will not go into a lot of detail, but you know, long term, anyone that knows anything about simple technical analysis knows the cup and handle pattern, and that is what we're making. It is just clear as day for that pattern to evolve, and you can see how close we are. If you do the wick to wick here on the weekly, you can also see here how close we are to just leave this, what that's also roughly 3-4 years worth of basically building that mega inverted head and shoulders also. And that will get confirmed above 26. So in the shorter time frames, all this get triggered on the 26, but you know, weekly closes above 24 should also be triggering this entire, what's it called, spring or energy that has been built up into the system here. silver.
Here's a question, and I get a lot of questions on like timing and whatnot. If we're seeing gold start to break out, if someone wanted to play this, would they play gold first, ride it, and then try to switch to silver, after a certain period of time or after a run up? Or do you just say, I'm not going to try to time it, buy some gold, buy some silver here, and just ride them both up together? Like, what's your opinions around that?
I think you need gold for that stability. But I also think you need silver to really press, that leverage that silver can provide. Because if you look at the gold to silver ratio as well, it is still heavily elevated into, I think it's 91 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. So there's still a lot of what's it called, energy to really have silver press that ratio down heavily. And I do think that, that's also something that I've been saying here on record many times, that at the end of this entire run here, within like 10 years or how long ever it will take, I still think if you look at the Fibonacci levels, you can see that single digit gold to silver ratio. It will be short-lived, obviously, but again, the alignment, I think we've showed it. People can go back and check, but they are just perfect from a Fibonacci level extension. If you add that on to what we have seen from March 2020 down to 2021 August, and then we have obviously increased in the ratio, and it looks like it wants to roll over. I can show you if you want to, if you need the people to see those extensions, because it's an amazing tool. So I can show you here gold to silver ratio, and we will just again clear all the stuff here. Go to the monthly. So this is the gold to silver ratio going back again 50 years or so. So this is what I mentioned here, the March 2020 mega spike into roughly 125 or so. Huge drop down, and then we're climbing back. So if we are to add a Fibonacci extension to that, we take the highs and the lows, and we assume for now that this high here in the ratio is also the high, until proven otherwise. And you can see here, if we zoom out, to me it's just perfect, really. We have the 1.618 is the exact low to the tick, more or less, of the 2011 low in this ratio. And then you have the 2.618 is the exact low that we had back in 1980. And then again, if you take the next one here, you can actually see that we're hitting the ratio from which the miners get gold and silver out of the ground, roughly 8-1, according to Keyes Newmeyer. So the alignment to me speaks that could be a potential level to get through. Not tomorrow, obviously, but into 2030 or whatever it may be. And yes, it might sound crazy, but we are coming to an end of this current fiat system, and it needs to reset somehow. And that could be one way for gold to finally reach very high numbers, and silver finally catching up and reach its pure potential. It has been suppressed for a long time. So
what do you think gold's going to get to then? I mean, if we're looking at this ratio and we're going down to 33 to 1, 15 to 1, 8 to 1, whatever it is, where do you think gold could potentially peak out, and what is silver going to be priced at if those ratios are actually hit? Because that would mean ridiculous numbers, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. So hopefully we'll get it. That would be one for the record books to be a part of. But I think I've mentioned also here, I think roughly, 7.5K, 8K gold is not totally out of the woods, and we could also overperform that heavily, depending on how crazy things will get down the road. But basically, we have that move back in the 80s, the 70s. Then you had the second leg up here, and basically what we're looking at, what we're missing here, is if we take the exact same analogy here, we have this move here. So we're looking at roughly, this was 4x, and then we had another 4x in the making. So 2K gold times 4, that's roughly 8K. And if we get down to, let's say, 10 to 1 at some point in time, that means a pretty high number for silver. But again, that will be insanely short-lived. And I do think when we get down to 30 to 1, 20 to 1, if you have silver, just convert it to gold. You cannot time that, make a spike into the lows. Just be happy with what you have achieved, and then you convert the silver into gold, in my view. Timing that spike will be, yeah.
What about the move from 2000 to 2011? What if that was like the first wave, like it was in the early 70s? Then we had a continuation pattern in the middle,
Yeah, okay,
and then
yeah.
we had another projected move up. What would that look like, or what would that projection be? Because wouldn't that be just massive then?
That would be a lot more than 8K gold, that is for sure. So we
Yeah.
can see here that's roughly, yeah, 4x, 4 or 5x, and then we have the lows to the highs, which is roughly 8x. Again here, so we can see here what we roughly came up. That's actually 6x, from the lows in at the .com bubble. And if we go to, let's call it that we overshot there by a tiny amount. Let's call it 9x here, the next one. You can see 9x here. We are getting to roughly, yeah, 10K gold in
10,000? Yeah.
yeah, roughly,
Okay,
if you
that
do
seems
it.
about right.
Yeah, it does.
Possible.
Yeah, and I also think, given the fact I'm a pure technical guy, but from a fundamental point of view, a lot of countries are buying gold, central banks are buying gold. Why are they buying gold? I don't know, but they're doing it for a reason. So that's all I need to know. Basically, that's all I need to know.
So if gold's going with a 10K number, which makes the math a lot easier, and we go to a 1 to 30 ratio, I mean, what would that be in silver if we're going 1 to 30, and also 1 to, what was the lower one? 1 to
Yeah,
15 or so, I think.
1 to
And then there
30
was
is roughly
1 to,
three. Yeah, 1 to 3, 1 to 30 is roughly 300, 400-ish. And then you can say, if you get to, yeah, in the spike, you can see 10 to 1 or lower. But again, you cannot time that. So again, 30 to 1, 50 to 1, 15 to 1, excuse me. I think that's
600-ish,
ish. Yeah.
6 something,
Yeah.
700.
Again, it will be insanely difficult to time it perfectly. So when you see those numbers, you should be happy and not trying to make it more complex than it is. So.
Mhm.
So yeah,
And,
but again, that's not
and
tomorrow.
what,
That's not this year. That's 10 years down the road or whatever it will be. So
right. And what about like the other metals too? What about platinum and or palladium, whichever tickles your fancy more to look at first?
I think we can look at platinum first, because I think platinum, for the first time ever since we peaked in 2022, I think it was, we can look at it here. We peaked, 2022, during the start of the invasion at the war. We peaked at roughly 3,500, and now we are at roughly 1K. And I think for the first time, I want to show you the daily stuff here, actually. I think for the first time in this massively, we have this long falling wedge here that until lately was actually pretty well defined. You can see here bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. And now we're starting, in my view, and also, as you know, at the end of trends, we see a lot of volatility. That's how it is. And that is also what we're seeing here, in my view. The bottoming pattern is not perfect until 2024. And you can see here, actually, on the daily, we're trying to make what I think is the bottoming structure for that inverted head and shoulders. Again, you can see the neckline is at 1K. So I think if we can get a good close above 1K, that is a good sign that we're actually trying to make a big bottom here. But again, I think we need 2024. A lot of the time here in 2024, I think still we need to bottom out, because we had a lot of downward momentum still coming in. So I do think, even though we're seeing a daily head and shoulders here, I still think we need 2024 and then we can maybe go higher, right? So we need some time to digest the downward momentum, but definitely with the volatility seen here and that daily bottoming pattern, I think it's a good probability that we have seen the lows, and now we just need to base out before we can eventually go higher once again.
So you're getting more bullish on palladium as we go then, you would say.
Yeah, I do, but I still think it needs to prove itself. It needs to do a lot of hard work here before we can show that we have that bottom here in place. But definitely it is having a good fight right now as we speak. That is for sure. And you also have to admire that we have come down, what, 72%. That's a mega drop. And if you go back, you can also see here that, you know, these big drops here, that's also 72. And what do we have here? We also have roughly, oh, that's 50, but still, last time we had that mega drop in 2008 was similar to the drop we have now here, roughly 72, 75% drop. So I think we're close. I think we're close.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to platinum, I see. Nice.
Yeah, good old platinum here. Actually, if you make this this golden trend line here, if you make that horizontal, actually, if you notice back from gold, where we had that invert head and shoulders, where the horizontal line went straight through the pattern, we are seeing the same thing here again, but for platinum. So we have a mega trend line here that we are struggling with. And if we zoom in here, I think it's also just a matter of time before we confirm. We have the blue neckline up here. We have the pits. I think it's just a matter of time before we are, you know, trying to undo that big bullish structure here that we have. Again, it needs to spend, I think, maybe into Q3. We might have the break above 1K, 1,100 maybe, and then we're good to go. But I still think we need 6 months-ish before we can start to see this breakout happen here for platinum. And you actually also seen some of the miners actually having some wild swings at the moment, up and down again. So that's also a good sign to see that the palladium miners are actually coming a bit to life here. Not much. It's still waiting, but yeah.
What about the mining companies like a GDX, Silj, stuff like that? What do you think they're ready to go? I mean, we've seen some movement in gold, or do you think they're just lag behind, much like silver or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny because gold has done, you know, for the past 4 years, basically it has been, you know, within, I think on average, if I were to make a guess, it has been like 1900 or so, plus minus. So, excuse me. So that's quite good actually. But the miners has been hit heavily from energy, which increased a lot, you know, 2 years ago, and also just overall mining cost, salary, and all that good stuff has increased big time. That's why you're seeing the big divergence right now. So the miners need the gold price to go up in order to get, you know, bring in more bucks to the company. So basically, I actually want to show you the GDX here. We have this blue here. That's all I'm waiting for. We have this blue triangle. And if gold really starts to kick off here, getting well into the 2Ks, I think it's just a matter of time before that breaks. And then we have a bigger one going back to 2011. And then we can challenge that for the fourth time. And you know, when we have big trend lines, the fourth touch is usually when we break through, just like on gold that we have seen here. So again, here, I think the miners are still heavily undervalued, and they rely on gold to go higher. If gold doesn't go higher, no matter what gold does, oil and so on does, I think the miners will be in a lot of pain here. But we did see, I think last week, the gold miners actually did quite well. So they're responding to the fact that we could potentially see gold leaving that 2K dollar for good and go well into the mid 2000s. And I also think it's Tevi Costa that has made a post where he has overlaid gold and the miners, and there is like a 70%, you know, what's it called? Difference between the two. So gold has done well, miners has just underperformed heavily. So that is in my book, that's always a great buying opportunity when you see gold doing what is probably about to do, and miners is still hated to, and no one buys miners, right? So, but they will as soon as they come to life.
I know in the 2000s-ish bull market, the 2000 to 2011 bull market, we had gold and silver outperform the miners for the majority of that bull market.
Yeah.
So this bull market that's coming, do you think that the miners are going to outperform the physical metals, or do you think is it going to outperform for just a small period of time and the metals keep running? You know, what's your opinions on, last bull market versus this one?
I don't know actually what happened last bull market because I wasn't, you know, a part of it. But I will say this though, the past 3 to 4 years with regarding to the miners, I think the miners are more of a trade than it is, to buy and hold, because they are very, very difficult to, at least for me, to just buy and hold. I would much rather try to trade it, not for like a week or two, but maybe hold them for a year or two, and then have them peak out and then show maybe some pullbacks, whatever, and then show themselves when they're ready again, which I think they are now. But again, the past 3 years, even though gold has done insanely well, the miners has been a pain, and I'm not trying to be a part of that pain train again for like a year or two. I will try to do my best to time it and then make it more as a trade, a large swing trade compared to a hold, a buy and hold. Basically, that is what I have learned, and what I'm trying to do this time around. So I'm trying to trade them more on the weekly time frame, so long-term stuff. But that's my game plan. This lesson learned, I guess, to hold these gold miners.
And you've got SIL there, so that's silver miners.
Yeah, that's still the miners. Again, you can see here we have, again, 3 touches. You can actually call it 4. And again, we're finding support here at the green lower trend line. Again, I think if gold runs, silver needs to that confirmation. And once silver gets above that 23-24 breaking out, the miners will surely come to life. And you have also seen the silver miners, the individual miners has actually done very well lately. Again, they're coming up from very low levels, so it's not big news yet, but I think that is to come. Once we break that silver, $24, $26 in silver, they will come to life big time. Big time.
Okay. And of all the metals that are going on and all the mining, ETFs and all that stuff, right now, given where we're at, where do you think the biggest opportunity is? What would you do with your capital of how to deploy in this sector, in your opinion?
So if I only could pick one,
Well, I mean, how would you approach it? You could do 2 or 3 or however. How would you approach this sector at this moment, knowing what you know with the charts?
I think as we started to talk to at the beginning of the video, I think energies and the commodities themselves would do incredibly well. So I would definitely look into the oil companies for once. Some of the oil stocks looks incredibly well. I'm not that exposed to oil yet, but when we see those breakouts, I will deploy a lot of cash into the oil stocks. They are printing money like a madman. They are paying 10, 15, maybe even 20% dividends. So if you hold them for let's call it 2 to 3 years, you can collect 10% dividends while you hold them. And yeah, they look incredibly well here. When we get the breakout, that is. And then I would obviously play gold and silver itself, the commodity, not the miners. They will be, from a personal point of view, more trading the individual stocks on the longer time frame. And then I'm a big uranium bull, and it's funny, we're only down like I think 10% from the highs on URNM, and people are hating the sector already. So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I
can we
like
just
that answer. I like that answer.
can we pause it here just quickly, Andy?